Ryudo walks through an empty corridor, guided by a beautiful assistant. They get to a room with a tinted window, when she embraces him tightly and tells him that he can have anyone his heart desires. She removes the shade from the glass, and Ryudo is shocked to see what's on the other side. It's 2040 in Tokyo, as Ryudo professes his undying love for Arisa, but she seems to think he's a little late. They've known each other since childhood, but he won't be around for long since he's contracted cellular sclerosis. The cure for the disease is expected within 5 years, so he must go into cryo-sleep until then. He doesn't expect that Arisa will wait for him, but to his surprise, Arisa dashes in at the last minute, promising him that she'll be waiting for him on the other side. Ryudo wakes up 5 years later and immediately sees a girl similar to Arisa, but realizes that she's a different girl as her bust size is out of this world. He has been fully cured, but gets suspicious when none of his loved ones are here to see him, and all the girls stare at him like he's Brad Pitt. Mira tells him that a virus called the MK virus has wiped out half of the entire human population, not long after he was put to sleep. Shocked to hear the news, Ryudo jumps out of the car and is surprised to see an unfamiliar sight. He tries to talk to someone, but the girl immediately screams as she runs away. Another girl calls out that she sees a man sprinting towards Ryudo until she is put down. Mira explains MK virus stands for the male killer virus and tells him that he is one of only 5 men alive in this new world. Mira gets down on her knees and pleads him for his help to save humanity by using his baby maker to make babies with 5 billion women. He refuses since he's an anime protagonist, since only anime protagonists would refuse a request such as this. Mira lets Ryudo see Maharu, his sister, hoping she can persuade him otherwise. He's relieved to see she's safe, but he's heartbroken to learn that Arisa's been missing for 3 years. That night, Ryudo lies in bed thinking about Arisa, but can't think for too long as Mira enters his room. She begins to strip and tells him that he can do anything he wants with her. She gets on top of him and gives him a kiss, but Ryudo thinks about Arisa again before he stops her, telling her that he shouldn't be the only one having fun during a pandemic. Naniko is waiting outside, and she tells Mira that she feels bad that she got assigned a wimpy boy, proudly announcing her male assignment has earned the title of being number 1. The next day, Mira guides Ryudo into a room full of starter Pokémon, telling him that he can choose whoever he wants. But the damn fool turns everyone down, asking Mira if he can get a month before doing his duties to save humanity. He tells her that he wants to find Arisa and says that if there's anyone he'll mate with, it will be her. Although unhappy with his request, Mira agrees, but on the condition that he'll allow 2 women to try and seduce him every night before the month ends. We meet Hino, living his best life as he receives a massage from professional masseuses while watching his favorite actress, who he thinks he'll have a deeper connection with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, okay.
Naniko comes to his aid, telling him that she'll arrange for him to mate with her as soon as possible. Naharu, Mira, and Ryudo have dinner together prepared by the world's finest collection of chefs. Mira orders a second serving and offers to finish Ryudo's dessert, as Ryudo thinks that she's a fortunate girl to have that weight going into all the right places. He tells her that she has an appetite, and Maharu marvels at her perfect proportions despite her diet. On the way to his room, Ryudo encounters Hino, who advises him to stop being a wimp and to just enjoy it. Ryudo is surprised anyone can be so cheerful about the current situation of the world, but doesn't realize that he's the one in the minority. Later, Ryudo is in the shower when the lights suddenly go off, and his hand accidentally lands on someone's plot. Akane tries her best to seduce him with some wine. She feeds him the alcohol in the most effective way possible, and is about to attack the baby maker, but he ends up passing out from dehydration. He wakes up in his bed to see her sprawled across the sofa and another girl, Sui, sleeping in his bed. When they wake up, the 3 go to visit Arisa's lab, hoping to find a clue on Arisa's whereabouts, when suddenly, Ryudo is unexpectedly attacked by a big bear. He gets a scratch before Sui defeats it, as he finds out that Sui will be his bodyguard moving forward, while Akane rips off her shirt, telling him she's his doctor. At the lab, Ryudo finds out that Arisa worked day and night to find a cure, but was unsuccessful before her disappearance. Hearing about Arisa's dedication, Ryudo decides to find a cure for the virus, and decides it would be a good idea to broadcast his endeavor to the whole world. Everyone watches the announcement as Ryudo instantly becomes a celebrity. Later, Maharu visits her brother in his lab, where she looks through Arisa's old stuff and finds a smart band that contains Arisa's top secret information. She found out that the virus was man-made, but couldn't trust to tell anyone about it at the time, as Ryudo finds out that she had a target on her back. Meanwhile, we witness a group of people discussing the mating progress so far, as they express their satisfaction with number 1's progress, who has already slept with over 100 women with 28 confirmed pregnancies. However, they are pissed at Mira's lack of progress in grooming number 2, who has yet to put his baby maker to use. They decide to activate number 3, so they contact Karen, who is determined to become the best assistant the world has ever seen. Back in 2040, a boy named Shota is shown being bullied at school. He practices the piano by himself after school since he has no friends or family that care about him. But his teacher Yuzuki visits him and tells him that he's smart and strong, hoping to make him feel better about always being bullied and alone. But he knows that strong and smart are two things that he is not, as he found out that he's been diagnosed with cellular sclerosis. Yuzuki tries to get him to say goodbye to the rest of his class before his cold sleep, but no one seems to care since they're too absorbed in their own lives. He's put into his slumber all alone, and is awakened in the current day by his attendant Karen. She shows him to his room, but feels awkward when she does everything for him, since no one has ever been nice to him in his entire life. He has no idea about the MK virus, so he goes back to a school identical to his previous one, but is shocked to see a classroom full of girls. Karen takes him to visit Yuzuki after class, who immediately hugs him as he enters the door. She tells him that she's glad he's better now, and tells him again that he is strong. She grabs his hand and asks him if they can meet up later at night. At night, he visits her in her room, and it's not long before she turns off the lights and grabs his face. She tells him that this is his reward for being a strong boy, before giving him a kiss. The next day in class, Shota thinks that last night will probably just be a one-time thing, when his classmates, Natsu and Shunka, begin to compete for his attention. During gym, all the girls attempt to impress him as they play volleyball, but he accidentally ends up injured in the process. He's surprised when Akira gets down on her knees and apologizes to him while crying, telling him that she'll do anything for him to make it up. Later, Yuzuki finds Shota in the music room, and she takes the opportunity to develop plot with him again. A week passes, and Shota wakes up with Yuzuki beside him, who tells him that she borrowed his shirt. He recalls the amazing week he had with her. He hugs her and tells her that he wishes they could stay like this forever. At school, Karen drags him to gym class since all the girls will be swimming today. He notices how amazingly perfect Akira and Shunka's bodies are while watching them race. The girls race, and it is Natsu who wins first place and makes her way to Shota's room later that evening. Karen tells him that Natsu's air conditioners stopped working, so she tells him that Natsu will be his new roommate. He gets dressed for school the next day, and finds it odd that Natsu is still in her pajamas. She asks for his help to change her clothes, telling him that her maids always helped back home, and that she can't do it on her own. He helps her, and tries his best to keep his beast hidden in the cave, because he wants to save it for Yuzuki. However, he feels Yuzuki has been ignoring him lately, since she refuses to let him come to her room. At night, Natsu asks Shota if she can sleep in his bed tonight. She tells him that she normally never sleeps unless someone else is in her bed.
Sensational.
She tells him that he's a nice person, and that she doesn't deserve someone as nice as him. She tells him that before the virus, she was expected to marry a dude that was 20 years older than her through a pre-arranged marriage. And despite the fact that the pandemic has killed over 5 billion people, she tells him that she's happy that it happened. He tells her that she's not a bad person, and that the virus was the best thing that ever happened in his life as well. She kisses him and tells him that she's happy. The next day, he sees Yuzuki in the piano room, and immediately confesses that he developed plot with another girl. But to his surprise, she tells him that it's okay. She tells him that he belongs to everyone, and that she can't keep him for selfish reasons, causing Shota to finally get suspicious of his environment. He wonders why everything seems to be revolving around him, so he confronts Karen, who outright confesses that the entire school was put together for him to mate with as many girls as his baby maker can take. She assures him all of them were profiled beforehand and really do like him and his personality very much, proving to him by commanding all the girls in the class to strip. She tells him that he can have whoever he wants, and that all he needs to do is put his baby maker to work, all for the survival of the human race. Elsewhere, 3 women discuss in a room that the progress of number 3 is going well, but express their frustration at Mira, who they decide to relieve from her assistant role with number 2. Meanwhile, a redhead bumps into Rito, and she immediately freaks out at the sight of a man before running off. Later, 2 girls ask for Rito's signature when suddenly another girl calls him out, boldly stating that Rito is a pervert who attacks any women he sees. He tells her that she's a pretty rude person, but she tells him that she saw him pin a redhead earlier to the ground. She calls him disgusting and tells him that he won't get away with his crimes for long, just because he's a man. Not too long after, Rito finds out that Mira won't be his attendant anymore, and finds out that the 2 girls he met today will be his new attendants, Rhea and Maria. The entire group board a train to Cayman City, heading for a hot spring, looking for someone who can help with their research. Maria gets startled by Rito and accidentally spills her drink on her clothes. She goes to the bathroom to clean herself up, and Rito follows to apologize, but she tells him it's not his fault, and that she's just not used to having men around. Given that both are in the medical field, the 2 bond talking about the virus. Rito then poses the question about the virus being man-made, which causes her to open the door, telling him that he's got an interesting theory. She tells him that they might find out more at their destination, stating that the hot spring was where the first victim of the MK virus appeared. At the hot spring, Rito decides to head straight for the hot spring, but is interrupted immediately by the girls. He tells them that he'll leave, but Akane grabs his hand and tells him that she'll wash his back as a thanks for helping her out all the time. He tells her that there's no need and that the girls are the ones who always help him out. Akane says if that's the case, then it's his duty to give every girl here a backwash, as Rito realizes that there's no escape in this situation. He goes around, putting in the time for the hard labor until he gets to Maria when his eyes begin to wander. Consequently, he points the shower head unintentionally in the direction towards the black hole. Akane is last, and she tells him that he needs to use his hands, telling him that her skin is sensitive to the towel. He uses his hands and finishes scrubbing her back, but she tells him that a man should finish what he started, and tells him to wash her entire body. She uses her hand to direct his hand all across her body, and eventually tries to suck his hand into her black hole, but he is able to escape before hitting the event horizon. Later, Rito meets a strange American girl in the sauna, who tells him not to leave or that she'll scream. She tells him that she loves Japan, and can't believe that she hit the lottery by finding a Japanese man. She tells him that they'll play a game, and tells him that the person who leaves the sauna first loses. If she leaves first, she won't tell any of the girls at the hot spring that he was here, but if he leaves first, he must plant the seed of life in her fertile soil. Hours pass, and she tells him that he shouldn't endure things for too long. She tells him that there's nothing wrong with giving into his lust, but he tells her that his resistance stat is maxed out. She tells him that his resistance is certainly impressive, so she decides to pretend like she passed out. He takes her out and tries to feed her water, but realizes that he should get a doctor. However, she grabs his hand and tells him to feed her water with his mouth. He says he'll get the nurse, but she tells him that she'll scream if he doesn't feed her with his mouth. He says fuck it, and decides to go for it, when he's caught in the act by the other girls, who can't believe that he chose to mate with a stranger before mating with them first. Meanwhile, Hino is having the time of his life, but he begins to feel bored of developing plot with the same girls every single day. He feels like it's time for a change, so he goes out to the refugee camps, hoping to find someone else to mate with. Maharu catches his attention, not realizing that she is Riito's sister. Back to Riito, the group visit the wife of the first victim of the MK virus, who eventually gives Riito a mysterious picture frame. He figures out that the frame is actually a digital file, releasing the information contained using Eris's smart band, and finding evidence that the MK virus was a man-made disease. Riito also finds out that despite Maria's desire to research more about a cure for the disease, the government has been restricting her funding and preventing her from accessing the government's files on the research data for the vaccine. Later, Naniko approaches Riito about Hino's desire to mate with his sister, who is completely against the idea. Riito goes to talk with Hino directly and tells him that his sister isn't interested, causing Hino to grovel, asking Riito to just get him an introduction. He tells him that he fell in love at first sight, which is enough to convince Riito to ask his sister to at least consider Hino's baby maker. Later, Akane and Maria visit Riito in the shower to talk to him about some information on the virus, since he's constantly under surveillance everywhere else. They find out about Riito's undercover work, and admit that they are also suspicious of the government's actions on deliberately preventing and hiding research on a cure. Just then, Ria barges in, asking what the three are doing suspiciously in the bathroom, but Akane acted quickly, pretending like she and Maria were doing their duties to repopulate the human race. Although suspicious, Rhea leaves and decides to visit Mira in her room, and she immediately gets behind her and touches her face. Rhea tells Mira that she loves her and tells her she's been in love with her since high school. Mira gets up, warning Rhea that she will not tell her again that she isn't her girlfriend. Rhea makes her way to the exit and tells Mira that she will make her forget about Rito soon, as we find out the reason why Rhea hates Rito so much, since she thinks that Mira is in love with Rito. Later, Rito is forced to third wheel Maharu and Hino's date, and unsurprisingly, Maharu leaves early, becoming the first girl ever to reject a man in this new world. After Rito, Akane, and Maria use an old underground computer network underground to continue their top secret research while Sui protects them. And to their surprise, Maria finds that all of her colleagues who attempted to research a cure for the disease have either been killed or hospitalized.